I planned a secret birthday celebration for my boyfriend at his beloved restaurant, bringing together all his friends and family. Just as we started cutting the cake, a woman I'd never met burst in with her mother, shouting through tears, "You can't pretend I don't exist. I'm 3 months pregnant." Picture this. I spent 3 months, planning the perfect surprise party for the man I loved. But instead of joy, that night delivered a betrayal so profound, it exposed a secret life, a pregnant woman, and shattered my entire world right before my eyes. Marcus's phone had been buzzing all week, texts from his mom Rosalie asking about Saturday. And there I was Thursday night on the couch watching him peck out these super casual one-word replies. He had no idea that I was meticulously coordinating the biggest surprise party of his life, right behind his back. I'd booked the private room at his favorite restaurant, a place he loved. I'd been planning this for 3 whole months because he constantly complained, "Nobody ever does anything special for my birthday." He always made it sound like his family just forgot about him every single year. The poor guy, right? I was out here tracking down college friends I'd never met, digging up cousins on Facebook, making sure Rosalie knew to bring his grandmother who couldn't drive anymore. I poured everything into that party because honestly I was head over heels in love with this man. We'd been together 2 years. Met through mutual friends at a festival back in 2023. First he seemed perfect, but there was always this one weird thing, his apartment across town. He was always so strange about me coming over. Oh, it's a mess, or roommate drama. Whatever excuse he could pull out that week. In 2 years I'd probably been there 4 times total. And every single time, it felt like he'd scrubbed the place clean just before I arrived. No personal touches, no real signs of life. Just this bizarre sterile vibe. But I brushed it off. I figured he was just private, or maybe a bit embarrassed about his living situation. So the stage was set for Saturday evening, October 5th. I told Marcus we were having a quiet, intimate dinner, just the 2 of us. He bought it. Agreed to meet me at the restaurant at 7 p.m. Meanwhile, I had 40 people packed into that back room, buzzing with anticipation, ready to scream, "Surprise!" His mom, Rosalie, was there with his grandmother. His sister had flown all the way in from Atlanta. His college buddies were already 3 beers deep, laughing it up. And I was standing there in this dress I bought just for tonight, feeling like the absolute best girlfriend in the world. Marcus walked in right on time. My heart was practically bursting. I led him toward the back, making small talk. "Oh, they have this special menu tonight. I wanted to check it out." We hit the doorway and boom! Everyone jumped out, yelling surprise. His face, it did this weird thing. For a split second he looked utterly terrified. Pure, unadulterated fear. Then he plastered on this forced, unnatural smile. I caught it, but I told myself he's just shocked, you know? It's a big surprise. Everyone was hugging him, snapping photos. His mom was openly crying, so proud her baby was turning 28. And I was just glowing, convinced I had absolutely nailed this whole thing. About 45 minutes into the party, the music was playing. People were munching on these appetizers I'd specifically ordered because Marcus had mentioned liking them once 6 months ago. His friends were giving hilarious, embarrassing speeches about college memories. I had this whole cake situation planned. A 3-tier masterpiece with all his favorite flavors. The waitstaff brought it out. Candles gleaming, everyone started singing. Marcus looked uncomfortable as hell, squirming in his seat. But again I just thought, he's not used to being the center of attention. And then the door to the private room slammed open. This girl, someone I had never ever seen in my entire life, came running in. She was sobbing, full-on hyperventilating. Behind her, an older woman, her mother I guessed, given the resemblance, followed. The music abruptly cut off. Everyone stopped singing mid-word. And this girl, she was screaming at Marcus. Her voice ripped through the silence. "You can't ignore me anymore. I'm 3 months pregnant." The entire room went completely, utterly silent. Marcus's face, it went from merely uncomfortable to absolutely bone-chilling white. Every single drop of blood just evacuated his body. His mom, Rosalie, let out this loud, horrified gasp. His grandmother's fork clattered to the floor. Everyone was frozen, staring at this impossible scene. And I was standing right next to Marcus, still holding the cake knife, my mind screaming, "What the actual hell is happening right now?" The girl, her face streaked with tears, turned to me. Who are you? She demanded just like that. I was so utterly shocked I just blurted out the truth. I'm his girlfriend. Of 2 years. The way her face crumpled. I will never ever forget it. She started crying even harder, screaming. He told me he was single. We've been together for 10 months. Her mother, Marjorie, immediately started laying into Marcus, yelling about him needing to take responsibility. How dare you do this to my daughter? She shrieked, calling him every name in the book. Rosalie, his mother, was just staring at him, mouth agape, utterly devastated. His sister, bless her, was actually recording the whole thing on her phone. In the moment it felt insane, but honestly, good for the evidence. Marcus was trying to speak, trying to explain, but nothing, absolutely nothing came out. And there I stood, still clutching that cake knife, the sickening realization dawning on me. I had spent 3 months planning this party for a man who was living an entire elaborate second life. Heidi. That's the girl's name, I'd find out later. Pulled out her phone. She started showing me pictures. And yeah, it was definitely Marcus. Photos of them at fancy restaurants I'd never been to, a beach trip that had to be when he told me he was at a work conference. Then she swiped and there they were. Pictures of them in his apartment. The one he never wanted me to visit. Only now it looked completely different. There were photos on the walls, decorations, her personal stuff visible everywhere. Look, she said. We went to the mountains last month. And all I could think was Marcus told me he couldn't do anything that weekend because of a major work deadline. Marjorie, Heidi's mom, was still absolutely laying into Marcus about the baby, about doctor appointments he'd missed, how he'd promised to tell his family soon. Rosalie looked like she was about to pass out. His friends all had their phones out, filming, and I could already picture this entire disaster going viral in every group chat they were in. Even his grandmother was asking someone, confused, to explain what was happening. Marcus finally found his voice, stammering. This isn't what it looks like. He reached for my arm. I recoiled so fast I almost knocked over the cake table. Don't you dare touch me, was the first clear thing I managed to say. Heidi, still crying, asked him, how could you do this to me? And her mom was demanding a paternity test. Everyone at this party I'd spent months planning, was watching the man I loved get exposed as the absolute trash he truly was. I looked him dead in the eyes. Is this girl pregnant with your baby? I asked, my voice chillingly calm. He started stuttering. I don't know. It's complicated, we need to talk about this privately. Heidi screamed. It is not complicated. You got me pregnant. She shoved her phone in my face, showing me ultrasound photos dated just last month. Marcus tried to pull his whole everyone calm down. Let's discuss this like adults routine. That's when I snapped. I lost it. There is nothing to discuss. I shouted. I just found out my boyfriend of 2 years has been living with another woman who is carrying his child. His mother was openly weeping now. His sister called him disgusting. His friends were all backing away, practically running like they didn't want to be associated with the mess. One of them muttered, Bro, what the F***? Heidi's mother was still demanding Marcus acknowledge this baby, right then and there. Rosalie, in a heartbroken whisper, asked Marcus if any of this was true. He was trying to do damage control, but it was way too late. Heidi kept showing me more photos. Recent ones from his apartment, clearly taken within the last few weeks. Just 3 days ago he told me he loved me. The restaurant manager came in looking panicked, asking if everything was okay because apparently, the yelling was audible in the main dining room. Marcus, the absolute audacity, actually tried to escort me out to talk privately. I loudly, clearly told him, I'm not going anywhere with you. Heidi was demanding to know how long we'd been together. When I said 2 years, she completely lost it again. Apparently, Marcus had told her he'd been single for 3 years after a bad breakup. His entire life was a lie. The traveling for work? Probably time with her. The apartment I couldn't visit? Their shared place. The weekends he was busy? With her. And here I was standing at this party I'd planned, where I'd invited his own mother to celebrate him, while this poor girl was pregnant and just found out she was the other woman. Or maybe I was the other woman. Or maybe we were both the other woman. I honestly didn't even know. What I did know was this. I walked out of that party. I left the cake. I left Marcus standing there with both his families and both his girlfriends. I just went home. My best friend Tamara followed me out, bless her. She drove me home because I was shaking too hard to drive myself. I sat there, completely numb, trying to process it all. The man I loved, the man I'd planned a future with, had been living an entire elaborate double life. And I had absolutely no idea. That Saturday night, after Tamara had gently driven me home, I just sat on my couch, still in that stupid, expensive dress, staring blankly at the wall. Around 9 p.m. my phone started to explode. It was Marcus calling over and over. His text started with "We need to talk," then escalated to "Please let me explain," then "I love you. Please just listen." His mom, Rosalie, was calling too, leaving these heartbreaking voicemails. She swore she had no idea how sorry she was, how she raised him better than this. Even his sister sent a long message, saying she always thought I was too good for him, and was so sorry I got dragged into his mess. I didn't answer a single one of them that night. I got in the shower still wearing the dress. I couldn't even deal with taking it off. I just stood there until the water ran ice cold. Then crawled into bed, my body aching. Tamara stayed over, bringing me water, gently urging me to eat, but the thought of food made me physically ill. Sunday morning, I woke up to 73 notifications. Marcus had apparently been texting me all night long. Rambling messages that began as apologies but quickly devolved into pathetic excuses. Reading them while sipping my coffee made my stomach churn. He was saying things like, "The situation with Heidi is complicated, and we weren't technically together when it started, and I never meant for anyone to get hurt." Around 11 a.m. I was sitting there trying to figure out what to do about my stuff still at his place, my clothes, my good hair straightener, some jewelry, books I'd been meaning to grab. Then, a pounding started on my apartment door. I peered through the peephole. It was Marcus, looking absolutely destroyed, still in the same clothes from the party. I opened the door, but I kept the chain on. He immediately started begging, pleading with me to let him in so we could talk. There I was in my pajamas, yesterday's mascara probably smeared all over my face, telling him there was nothing to talk about. "Please," he begged. "I need to explain everything." And this is where I made what was probably a massive mistake. But I was so consumed by anger, a burning need to hear what possible explanation he thought could make any of this okay, that I let him in. Marcus walked in and immediately tried to pull me into a hug. My stomach turned. I physically shoved him away. "Don't you ever touch me," I hissed. "Sit down and explain how you've been living with another woman, while dating me for 2 years. He slumped onto my couch, burying his head in his hands, doing this whole tortured, pathetic routine. Then he started his story. According to Marcus, he met Heidi about a year ago through work. They started casually seeing each other, but it wasn't serious. He swore he told her from the beginning he wasn't looking for anything committed. Then poof, she got pregnant 3 months ago, and everything got complicated. He was going to tell me, he said, but he didn't know how. He didn't want to hurt me, and the timing was never right. I stood there listening to this absolute garbage. I finally cut him off. "So, you've been lying to me for a year and living with her?" He started backtracking hard. "I'm not really living with her," he stammered. "I stay there sometimes, but it's not like that. My apartment is more like a home base, but Heidi needed help with rent, so I've been staying there more." The mental gymnastics this man was doing? They deserved an Olympic medal. "Then why does she have photos of you two in your apartment going back months?" I pressed. He waved it off. "Oh, she probably took those when she visited. But that place is definitely his, not theirs." Then I asked about the pregnancy. He got this panicked look in his eyes. "I'm not even sure it's mine," he blurted. Heidi could be lying about the timeline. I asked her to take a paternity test, but she refused. I was listening to him throw this pregnant girl under the bus, sitting right there in my apartment lying to my face. And something just clicked inside me. "What did you tell Heidi about me?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. He went quiet for a moment. Then he mumbled that Heidi knew he had an ex he was dealing with breaking up with, but nothing serious. "An ex? An ex? When exactly did we break up, Marcus?" I asked, my voice rising. "Because I must have missed that conversation." "You know what I mean," he insisted. "We've been having problems." What problems, Marcus? I demanded. I was mentally sifting through our entire 2 years together, trying to pinpoint these problems. I came up blank. We weren't fighting. We were literally planning to move in together next year. I was meeting his family regularly. We talked about marriage. He started listing these completely made-up issues. I was always working late, we never saw each other, he felt neglected. I work a normal 9-to-5 schedule. He was the one who was always busy or traveling or couldn't hang out on weekends. I pointed this out and he immediately switched tactics, saying we just grew apart and he wasn't happy. But he didn't know how to end things. I looked at him, disbelief washing over me. So instead of breaking up with me like an adult, I said slowly, you decided to start a whole entire relationship with someone else and get her pregnant? At this point, Marcus actually started crying. I messed up so bad, he blubbered. I love you and I can fix this, we can work through it. How exactly? I asked, my voice hollow. Are we going to work through you having a baby with another woman? He actually said, the baby might not even be mine. And even if it is, we can figure it out. Maybe he won't be super involved. Maybe Heidi will be reasonable about co-parenting. The way he talked about this unborn child like it was a problem to be managed rather than a human being he created, made me physically sick. Are you in love with Heidi? I asked him point blank. He swore he wasn't. She was just someone he got involved with during a confusing time. I was the one he wanted to be with. Prove it, I said. Show me your phone. Just unlock it and hand it over. Let me see these text conversations with Heidi where you told her you weren't serious. He immediately refused. He started going on about privacy and trust. How if I really loved him, I wouldn't need to see his phone to believe him. Marcus, I said, my voice dripping with contempt. I am way past trusting anything that comes out of your mouth. If you want any chance at explaining yourself, you need to show me those messages. He still refused, getting defensive, actually calling me unreasonable and controlling. This man, who had been lying to me for possibly our entire relationship, was calling me unreasonable. That was it. Get out, I said. He started pleading again, saying we needed more time. One conversation wasn't enough to throw away 2 years. I reminded him. You threw away 2 years when you decided to build a life with someone else. It's not a life, he cried. It's just a situation I got stuck in. I never wanted this. Heidi trapped me with the pregnancy. I was done. Utterly, completely done. I walked to my door, opened it wide and told him to leave. He stood there, looking absolutely devastated, asking if this is really it? And if I was really going to throw our whole relationship away over one mistake? One mistake. Getting another woman pregnant after maintaining a year-long relationship with her, all while lying to both of us, is not one mistake. It's 1,000 consecutive choices to be a terrible human being. We're done, Marcus, I told him, my voice firm. Don't contact me again. I closed the door in his face. I spent the next hour collapsed on my floor, sobbing while Tamara, my rock, brought over bagels and mimosas and just let me rant. Then I did something that probably wasn't smart. I started replaying every memory of the past year, desperately trying to figure out what was real, what was a lie. Our anniversary trip to the beach last December? He was glued to his phone, claiming work emails. Probably Heidi. Valentine's Day? He canceled dinner last minute due to a work emergency. Definitely Heidi. That weekend in July when he had to visit his sick uncle? Oh, that was absolutely Heidi. My phone buzzed. It was Rosalie calling again. This time I actually answered. I figured I deserved some answers from his family. She was crying immediately, apologizing profusely, saying she had no idea Marcus was seeing anyone else. She thought I was his only girlfriend. She was so ashamed of him. I asked her if she knew about the apartment situation. What do you mean? She asked, confused. He lives alone across town in that studio. A studio? Heidi's photos clearly showed a 2-bedroom place. Rosalie started asking me everything. As I recounted the details of his double life, her voice grew more and more upset. Apparently, Marcus had told his family he was living alone and struggling financially, which was why they'd been occasionally helping him with rent. The horrifying realization dawned on her. He was probably using their money to maintain his second household. Then she dropped another bomb. Marcus's grandmother had given him $15,000 last year as an early inheritance to help him get stable. He told the family he used it for his apartment deposit and furnishing his place. I was doing the mental math, realizing Marcus wasn't just lying to me. He'd been financially manipulating his entire family while living this monstrous double life. Rosalie was utterly devastated. She said she needed to talk to her mother about this, and she kept apologizing to me, as if it was her fault her adult son was a lying piece of garbage. I told her I appreciated her call, but I needed space from anything Marcus related right then. Tuesday. Just when I thought things couldn't get more insane, Marcus shows up at my workplace. He just appeared in the lobby around lunchtime, asking the receptionist to call me down. My coworker Lynette came to my desk eyes wide. "There's some guy downstairs asking for you," she whispered. "And he looks rough." I went down there ready for a fight, ready to cause a scene if necessary. And there he was standing there with flowers. Flowers. Like a pathetic grocery store bouquet was going to fix anything. He immediately launched into his whole speech right there in my office lobby. How he'd been thinking. How he wants to work on us. He claimed he'd ended things with Heidi and was ready to commit fully to me now. I just stared at this man holding those cheap roses telling me he'd ended things with a pregnant woman, as if that made him noble. What exactly does ending things mean? I asked, my voice dangerously flat. When she's carrying your child? They agreed to co-parent, he said quickly. But nothing romantic. It's over between them. Did you take a paternity test? I asked. No, he admitted. But he's pretty sure it's his based on timing. So I summarized for him, my voice dripping with disdain. You have a pregnant ex-girlfriend who lives in your actual apartment while you're standing here with cheap flowers, trying to win back the woman you've been lying to. He started getting frustrated. You're not understanding, he whined. I'm choosing you. I want us. Can't you see I'm trying to make this right? Making it right, I told him, would have been not cheating in the first place. And I turned on my heel and walked away. He followed me to the elevator, still pleading. We need to talk more. One real conversation where we're both calm. Maybe we can meet for dinner. I turned around, looked him dead in the eye, and said very clearly, if you show up at my work again, I'll call security. And if you come to my apartment, I'll call the police. His face, it was priceless. Like he couldn't believe I was serious. That night, his sister sent me a message. She asked if I'd heard from Marcus because apparently, he was telling the family I was overreacting, that we'd had a mutual breakup, and now I was harassing him for closure. She said she knew it was garbage, but their mother was so confused because Marcus kept changing his story. Now he was apparently saying Heidi was some obsessed girl who trapped him, and I was his real relationship that he was fighting for. I lay in bed Wednesday night trying to figure out my next move, and then it hit me. I never got my stuff from his place, and I didn't even know which place was actually his place anymore. Thursday evening, I was at Target buying new hair products to replace the ones still at his apartment, having decided I wasn't going back there. I bumped into Fraser, one of Marcus's college friends from the party. He recognized me immediately and came over, looking incredibly uncomfortable. We ended up talking in the home goods aisle, and he told me their group chat had been absolutely insane since Saturday. Marcus had been blowing it up with his side of the story. According to Fraser, Marcus was telling people that Heidi was unstable and fabricated the pregnancy to trap him, and that I was his serious girlfriend who he loved, but we were just going through a rough patch. Fraser, however, mentioned he'd personally seen the ultrasound photos, and they looked pretty legitimate to him. Then he mentioned something that made my blood run cold. Apparently, Marcus had been bringing Heidi around their friend group for months, introducing her as his girlfriend. None of them had known I even existed until the party. So Marcus maintained completely separate social circles too. Layers upon layers of deception. We exchanged numbers and Fraser said if I needed anything, or wanted to know what Marcus was saying in the group chat, to let him know. Friday afternoon, I was finally feeling stable enough to go back to work when Rosalie called me again. She'd been trying to get answers from Marcus about the money situation, and he was being super defensive and evasive. She'd gone to his studio apartment, the one he claimed was his, which, based on the dust everywhere, he was barely ever at. It was basically empty. No furniture beyond a mattress on the floor and a TV. She didn't know where he was actually living, but it clearly wasn't there. This woman was having a complete breakdown, realizing her son had scammed the family out of money and had been lying about every single aspect of his life. She asked me if I knew where he really lived. I had to tell her I didn't. He never let me visit his place more than a handful of times. She started crying, her voice breaking. How did we miss this? How did he fool everyone so completely? I told her honestly, I don't know, Rosalie, but I'm done trying to figure it out. Now it was Friday night, and Marcus had started texting me again. These super manipulative messages about how I was the love of his life, and he can't lose me. And he's willing to do whatever it takes. But still, he wouldn't send me screenshots of his conversations with Heidi. Still wouldn't tell me where he actually lived. Still hadn't taken a paternity test. He wanted me back, but only on his terms, where I just believed whatever he said. Alright, so shout out to everyone who told me to stand my ground, because I'm about to tell you about the most insane week of my life. And honestly, if I hadn't had you all in my corner, I might have actually lost it. Saturday morning, I woke up to a text from Rosalie. She asked if we could meet in person. She said she desperately needed to understand what had happened, to get the full story from me, because Marcus kept changing his version every single time she asked him anything. I was so hesitant. The last thing I wanted was to spend my weekend rehashing this nightmare. But she sounded genuinely devastated, and I figured she deserved the truth. We agreed to meet Sunday afternoon at a diner near her place in Durham. Sunday. I was getting ready to meet Rosalie, and Marcus started blowing up my phone again. He was sending these incredibly manipulative long texts about how his mother had been manipulated by the situation, and I needed to be careful what I tell her, because she doesn't understand our relationship. I was reading these messages, just aghast, realizing this man was actively trying to control the narrative with his own mother. He said things like, "Please don't make me look bad to my family, we can still fix this if everyone just calms down." I didn't respond to any of it. I got to the diner around 2 p.m., and Rosalie was already there, tucked into a booth. She stood up immediately, hugged me tight, and started apologizing before we even sat down. We ordered coffee, and she asked me to start from the very beginning. How we met, how our relationship developed when I started noticing problems. So I walked her through everything. Meeting Marcus in 2023, how perfect he seemed at first, the weird apartment situation, all of it. Rosalie was taking notes on her phone, which felt intense, but also like she was desperately trying to get everything straight. She asked about the apartment specifically, and I told her about the handful of times I'd been there, how it always felt staged, how Marcus always had excuses for why I couldn't visit. She shook her head, her voice full of grief. "I gave him money for that place," she said. "We all helped him furnish it. And now I'm finding out it was basically empty." Then she dropped the bomb. "I asked Heidi to meet us here." I froze. "What?" Rosalie's voice was gentle but firm. "I know this is uncomfortable, but I need to hear both sides. Marcus won't tell me anything straight, so I tracked down Heidi through Facebook and asked if she'd be willing to talk." Before I could even process this, Heidi walked through the diner door with her mother, Marjorie. It was the first time I'd seen Heidi since the party, and she looked just as shocked to see me as I was to see her. Rosalie stood up and waved them over, and I sat there thinking, this is either going to be the most therapeutic thing ever, or I'm about to have a full-blown breakdown in a public restaurant. Heidi and Marjorie slid into the booth across from us, and this super awkward silence hung in the air. Rosalie broke it, saying she needed both of us to tell her everything because her son was clearly lying to everyone, and she wanted the full truth. Heidi looked at me nervously. I could tell she was scared I was going to attack her or something. "I'm not angry at you, Heidi," I told her, my voice softer than I thought it would be. "I'm angry at Marcus." She visibly relaxed. Marjorie was still eyeing me, clearly not sure if this was some kind of trap. Heidi started talking, and the story that came out made me physically sick. She met Marcus in February of last year. Almost 2 years ago, not just one like he told me. At some networking event for his work. They exchanged numbers, started texting, and went on their first date in March. According to Heidi, Marcus told her he'd been single for years and was ready for something serious. By May they were officially together, and he asked her to move in with him. I was doing the mental math. Marcus asked Heidi to move into his apartment while we were still dating and planning our anniversary trip. Rosalie looked like she might actually throw up. Heidi kept going. Marcus told her he worked from home a lot, which explained why he was always around. When he traveled for work, he'd be gone for days at a time. Those work trips? They were probably when he was with me. Heidi pulled out her phone and started showing us photos chronologically. March, their first date. April, them at a baseball game. May, moving day photos, boxes everywhere in the apartment. June, photos of them at his family cookout. Wait, I asked Rosalie about that cookout, and she confirmed Marcus did bring a girlfriend to their summer gathering last year. But I never went to that cookout. Marcus told me he was going alone because it was just immediate family. Rosalie was horrified, realizing Marcus had brought Heidi to family events, introducing her as his girlfriend, while he was still with me. Heidi scrolled through more photos showing their entire domestic life together. Grocery shopping, cooking dinner, watching movies on the couch. All the normal couple stuff. Every photo was dated, and I was cross-referencing with my memories of what Marcus told me he was doing those days. That weekend in August when he said he had a work conference? Photo of him and Heidi at a concert. October when he said he was helping his sister move? Photo of them at a pumpkin patch. Marjorie watched me process all this, then reached across the table and squeezed my hand. She said she had no idea I existed until the party. If she'd known Marcus was doing this to two women, she would have dragged Heidi away from him months ago. Heidi got to December, showing photos from Christmas, them decorating a tree together, opening presents, his family gathering. Apparently, I wasn't invited to that one either, because Marcus told me he was going alone again. So Marcus spent Christmas with Heidi, then came to my place on December 26th and gave me presents, acting like he'd just been with family the whole time. Then, Heidi talked about finding out she was pregnant. She was terrified but also excited, because they'd been together over a year living together, and she truly thought they were building a life. Marcus was weird about it at first but then seemed to come around, even went to a few doctor appointments. They talked about baby names. Around September he started being distant, gone more often, always on his phone. She thought he was just stressed about becoming a father. But by October Marcus was barely home. Heidi started getting suspicious, checking his phone. She felt guilty about it, but something just felt wrong. She found texts between Marcus and someone named Alex that were clearly romantic. At first she thought Alex was a guy, and Marcus was cheating with a man, which was its own crisis. But then she saw a text that made it clear Alex was a woman. That's when she started digging. Heidi went through Marcus's laptop while he was supposedly at work and found his other account. She found the party invitation. That's how she knew exactly where to show up on Saturday. She spent days debating what to do, whether to tell me or confront him first, and finally decided she needed to expose everything publicly, so he couldn't possibly talk his way out of it with either of us. I sat there, listening to all of this, feeling so many emotions, I couldn't even begin to name them all. Marjorie then started asking questions about money, and that's when things got even more complicated. Apparently, Marcus had told Heidi he was paying full rent on their apartment, but he needed her to contribute to utilities and groceries. Heidi had been giving him several $100s a month since she moved in, but Rosalie said she and Marcus's grandmother had been helping with his rent on what they thought was his studio apartment. So where was all that money going? Rosalie looked at both of us, her voice heavy. She asked what we wanted to do moving forward. Heidi said she needed Marcus to acknowledge the baby and be involved financially, at a minimum. She wanted a paternity test, not because she doubted it was his, but for legal documentation. As for me, I said I wanted absolutely nothing to do with Marcus ever again, and I just needed to get my belongings back from wherever he actually lived. Rosalie, bless her heart, immediately said she'd help with both of those things. We were just wrapping up this incredibly heavy conversation when Marcus walked into the diner. He just strode in like he had some sixth sense we were all there talking about him. His face when he saw all four of us sitting together? Priceless. Pure, unadulterated panic. He immediately tried to turn around and leave, but Rosalie stood up and yelled his name. The entire diner turned to look. Marcus slowly came over to the booth, demanding to know what was going on. Why is everyone here? What are you talking about? Rosalie told him to sit down and explain himself. He stood there throwing his hands up, This is insane. You're all ganging up on me. How did you find us, Marcus? I asked, my voice cold. He actually admitted he'd been tracking Rosalie's location on her phone, which was creepy as hell, but also explained how he always seemed to know when to show up places. Marjorie went off on him right there in the diner, calling him a liar, a manipulator, demanding he acknowledge his child. Marcus tried to play the "we're in public, can we discuss this privately?" card, but she shut him down hard. You lost the right to privacy, she declared, when you decided to deceive everyone. Heidi was crying again, asking him why he did this, why he couldn't just pick one of us, why he had to lie about everything. Marcus's response? To play the victim, of course. He never meant for any of this to happen. He loved both of us in different ways. The situation just spiraled out of his control. Rosalie asked him about the money, and he started stuttering about expenses and work being unpredictable. She asked him directly where he'd been living, and he was looking around desperately, trying to find an exit. I was done. I stood up. Marcus, I said, my voice cutting through his pathetic excuses. I want my stuff back immediately, and I never want to see you again. He started begging me not to do this, saying we could work it out. He actually said right there, with Heidi hearing every word while she's carrying his child, I choose you. I looked at him, completely unmoved. You don't get to choose anyone anymore, Marcus, I told him, because we both choose to be done with you. He started yelling then about how this was all a misunderstanding, and we were being dramatic, and ruining his life over nothing. Rosalie, his own mother, cut him off. You ruined your own life, Marcus, she said firmly. Now you need to leave. He tried to appeal to his mother, saying she was supposed to be on his side. And she looked him square in the eye and said, being on your side doesn't mean supporting you lying to everyone who loves you. He looked at me one more time with those pathetic puppy dog eyes, begging me to change my mind, and I just stared back, stone-faced, until he finally turned and left. Rosalie said she was going to Marcus's studio apartment that night with a key she still had and would collect any of my belongings she found. And if Heidi wanted her to grab anything, she'd do that too. Heidi immediately gave her a list. Heidi and I exchanged numbers. Monday morning, Rosalie texted me. She'd gone to the studio and found some of my clothes, my hair straightener. She promised to meet me later that week to return them. She also found boxes of stuff. A mix of mine and Heidi's belongings. It was like Marcus had been slowly moving things out of the actual apartment he shared with Heidi. Just creepy. Monday night, Marcus texted me again. He was playing the victim, of course, saying his mother had betrayed him, and now his whole family won't talk to him. I blocked his number. Thursday, Rosalie met me at a Panera. She returned all my stuff. She also told me she'd written Marcus, telling him she was ashamed of him, and until he took full responsibility for his actions and started being honest, she didn't want any contact. His entire family was icing him out. She hugged me goodbye, her eyes full of genuine sorrow, and made me promise that if I ever needed anything to call her. Heidi texted me Friday saying Marcus had finally agreed to a paternity test, probably because his family had demanded it. Marjorie was helping her move out next week. A part of me just aches for Heidi going through all of this while pregnant. It's been 3 weeks since that birthday party. My life is completely different now. But honestly, I'm relieved. So incredibly relieved. Better to find out now, before we were married, before we had kids, before I invested even more of my life into a lie. That party disaster was actually the worst thing that could have happened. It exposed everything in front of everyone. Marcus couldn't manipulate his way out of it. I know some people wanted me to key his car, or blast him on social media or whatever. But honestly, his family disowning him, having to face one pregnant woman carrying his child, and one ex-girlfriend who knows exactly what kind of person he is, that feels like enough. He has to live with what he did, and with everyone knowing exactly what he did. I organized a surprise party for my boyfriend and got the surprise of my life instead. But you know what? I wouldn't change a thing. So, I have to ask, if you were me, what would you have done that day at the diner? Have you ever dealt with a betrayal this deep? Let me know in the comments below. I really want to hear your thoughts.